This is the Surface Book 2015, the very first of its kind that was formally announced right alongside my former laptop, the Surface Pro 4. It's been used for 6 years and finally put into my hands. So we can finally answer the question, is it still worth it in 2021? Let's find out. So starting at design, the Surface Book was Microsoft's first attempt at a laptop before the aptly named Surface Laptop came to market, and it packs a detachable screen just like its cousin, the Surface Pro, and that clipboard tablet portion continues to separate after 6 years, proving that the hardware that separates it, the accordion hinge, is still reliable and can be used in various postures, such as this one that I like to use for inking. It was so refreshing to have a laptop after using a 2-in-1 for so long. Even though it is a little bit top heavy, it still feels premium with a solid magnesium design that has minimal scratches on the keyboard, but several scratches on the clipboard. Big sad. Speaking of keyboards, we also have a genuinely nice keyboard that is still very tactile and oh so good. It can get a bit loud, but it's still one of the best keyboards on any laptop today. And the trackpad's still big, still responsive, and the gestures on Windows 10 are still running great. And although there's a side note, I did experience random freezes that separating the clipboard and putting it back on. It would solve the freezes, but other times it would just freeze the entire device, and I either had to wait for a reboot or just sit there waiting. Thankfully, it doesn't happen often, and it actually might be a driver issue, so it most likely won't happen to you or your device. However, it's still something I wanted to report. Inside the base is a Surface Connect port, 2 USB-A ports, a microSD card slot, and a mini display port. I love that microSD card slot because it allows me to import quick videos from my camera, but that mini display port is kind of outdated. It's the sort of thing that worked in 2015 but not in 2021, and that base also makes the device kind of thick. With surprisingly, on most laptops you have a thin display, thicker base. Here the display and the base are kind of actually the same width, the same thickness, so it makes the device kind of thick, and it leaves a gap that lets dust and grime into the ridge of the hinge. So make sure you clean the ridges in the gap any way you can. I don't really feel like I separate the clipboard very often, but I do usually detach it when I want to quickly share something with someone or quickly ink away from the desk. But for me, it's just not enough to justify the clipboard and the baggage that comes with it. But the Surface novelty is part of that aesthetic, the Surface aesthetic, and making it unique in a way that I actually rather fancy. So I'm glad it's there. And besides, there are actually some hidden benefits I had never thought of, such as battery life. The clipboard by itself, it gets about 1 to 2 hours, and absolutely it needs the base to survive. However, with the base, it grabs 6 hours, and on one of those 6-hour days, I actually had 34% left when I had to go ahead and do something else. And I even noticed that it transfers power. So the base transfers power to the clipboard so that the clipboard doesn't die. And this is considering that I have 47 tabs open right now. I'm not a normal user, but if you have a lighter workflow, I think you can squeeze even more out of this device. However, it's still nowhere near modern battery life that you may have come to expect, so I still bring my charger everywhere and I still charge throughout the day. Keep that in mind, your mileage will vary. The screen is also pretty great, coming in at 13.5 inches with a 3:2 aspect ratio and 267 pixels per inch. Those thick bezels are kind of a compromise, but I like them and they give you a nice grip when in clipboard mode. Do with that info what you will. We also have a nice Windows Hello camera that is a little bit less reliable, I'm not sure why, than the one on my Surface Pro 4, but it's still nevertheless very much usable and generally nice. We also have a HD webcam that looks great for Zoom calls, and of course a 3.5mm headphone jack. Weird positioning though. Inking on this display is pretty fast and quick with 1024 levels of pressure sensitivity that can lag under heavy load, but with the magnets on the side and 2 inking postures, you're still in for a plethora of inking the lights with this device, provided you grabbed a Surface Pen like I already had. Now, obviously, Surface hardware, it survives because it was premium in 2018, and it still feels pretty premium in 2021. And on the other hand, specs and the processor inside continue to be some of the most important parts of buying hardware. In the performance, I have a 6th generation dual core i7 CPU with 8GB of RAM, 256GB of storage, and an NVIDIA GPU in the base. So quick explain on the GPU. Microsoft and NVIDIA never actually said what was the GPU in the base, but some sleuthing at internet shows up that the GPU in the base is actually basically an NVIDIA 940M. Not exactly the best GPU of 2015, and not even close to the mobile GPUs that NVIDIA is releasing right now. But I still did testing on both GPU and CPU with just a lot of things. And even though I don't have time to go in depth, but if you want to see that in-depth video, maybe 20 likes would nudge me to make it. Here's some stuff that I threw at it. A 10-minute 1080p export in HitFilm Express took about 30 minutes, and it was hardware accelerated by the GPU. And actually, a great way to tell if the GPU is being used is this nice little indicator on the taskbar. So on the taskbar, if you see this little indicator, the GPU is in use, and you have to close the offending app to go and detach the board. So transcoding batch footage to Norman AVC in Handbrake, it took about 4 minutes, and I really saw how the CPU hit its turbo and got the job done. But it got kind of hot, and just to prove my point, here's some fan noise and fan grills B-roll. So back to performance, we're playing games, and I was constantly able to hit 45 to 60 FPS in Minecraft Java Edition with the help of Optifine. Use Optifine. And in my daily workflow and productivity, it still handled everything I threw at it with pretty much really ease. And surprisingly, the bottleneck for performance wasn't the processor, it wasn't the GPU, it was RAM. And when I use a ton of Edge tabs, just a ton of apps all the time, and RAM constantly is loading them back up, it's making things slower. So I do recommend, even on modern laptops, get more RAM. If you're a heavy multitasker like I am, don't make the mistake I made. Grab a 16GB, you won't regret it. And we're gonna round off this review now. This device isn't perfect. No device is perfect, and it has many fringe flaws. And I didn't even mention, like, when it gets hot, Zoom calls, the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth performance, it gets worse for some reason. But that's considering that Wi-Fi and Bluetooth performance from the start was not really that good, and that's the Marvel Avastar Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip that it strikes again. And rest assured, this was fixed in later models using an Intel Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip, but nevertheless, it's still a problem on this model. But still, I love this device, and seeing it still be valuable, still be useful in 2021 makes me confident in giving it a good review. And it's a novelty to detach the premium hardware and that Surface feel that makes it worth the money in 2021. If you can grab a great deal on this laptop like I did on a used or new Surface Book 2015, you should have a great laptop on your hands like I do right now. And especially if you grab that GPU. So thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Farewell. Hello everyone, this is BenTech Code, and do you want to support the channel and the blog? Well, now you can. This is the Buy Me a Coffee page over at buymeacoffee.com/BenTechCode. There, you can sign up for my membership and support me on a monthly basis, or you can just buy me a coffee. Real quick, real simple, real easy. Go to buymeacoffee.com/BenTechCode for more information and to see how you can support your favorite content creators like me. buymeacoffee.com/BenTechCode. See you there.